award-winning Cinema Classics is produced by John DeSando and Johnny DiLoretto. Listen to the shows and read reviews online at WCBE.org.
I'm John DeSando.
I'm Johnny DiLoretto. We are quite the pair.
Oh, now wait a minute. Now, this is Cinema Classics.
What did I say?
We didn't say that. No, we just didn't say this is Cinema Classics.
I said the award-winning cinema. Oh, I got it.
Right. So you want to do that again?
Yeah. I'm Johnny DiLoretto.
I'm John DeSando.
This is Cinema Classics.
Yeah, boy, it is.
I think we're one of the great cinematic pairs. You know, even though we've never appeared in a film together, we talk about them.
Right. And I think some time, 100 years from now, people will be glamorizing us for this little show.
There will be a film.
There will be a film.
A romanticized film about the passing of a time.
Yes.
When two very distinguished, radio outlaws shared ideas about film.
And don't you think that we broadcast from a hole in the wall?
True.
All right, so that's the gang.
We're the hole in the wall gang. We're talking about Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
Oh, yes. Wow.
I'm not sure why.
Well, the Drexel recently showed it, and I was just inspired by the excitement of that, and thinking back to our discussions of the 1960s in film.
Yeah.
And this is 1969.
1969, one of the great years.
Oh, gosh.
And, man, is this movie just a blast. I often lament the disappearance of comedies. Like, we have an abundance of comedies today, but they're always pitched at such a ridiculous level. They're always, like, super farcical, obnoxious, crude,
right?
Very silly. They're not really based in character. And a movie like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, which is a great Western in and of itself, but it has this comical interplay about it, that elevates it and sort of helps it bleed into this different genre.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're so right. When we think back to the 30s and 40s with the screwball comedies, I think we had inklings of what the buddy film could be.
Right.
But I think you're right. I mean, this is the beginning of it. And take a look at all the buddy films that have come after it. Don't you think that many of them have been influenced by Butch Cassidy?
Yeah, but they lose something along the way has been lost. Oftentimes, the basic formula for a buddy movie is, one character is a distinct type, and the other character is the opposite type. In Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, it's not that obvious. Yeah. These guys are similar in many ways, but they're different in some key ways. And it's that sort of subtlety that brings out these, you have two of the great actors, right?
Yes.
Paul Newman and Robert Redford playing off of each other. By the way, I'm sure Newman lobbied for Redford to get that part. Redford wasn't as big a star as some of the other guys they wanted. Yeah. Like Steve McQueen.
Actually, Dustin Hoffman was looked at for Butch.
Because he was fresh off of The
Graduate. And Jack Lemmon had only The Odd Couple in his way. He'd have been Sundance.
Yeah.
And then there was a mix-up as to who was going to play which one.
Right.
With Redford and wasn't it something like that?
Yeah. But wisely. It all fell into the right place.
Oh, boy.
But the beautiful interplay between those guys has never been duplicated. And, I miss that. I miss comedies about character.
Yes.
Well,
nothing greater than the moment that everybody knows when they're about to jump.
Right.
And Redford says that he can't swim.
Right.
And Newman says, the fall will kill you.
Right. But it's his reaction. It's not even the line. It's his he doesn't understand why Sundance is hesitating. And when that comes out, that revelation that he's just afraid because he can't swim, his reaction is really funny. And don't forget what makes that scene great. They're pinned down. They're being shot at. There's only two options.
Yeah.
They either get shot and die at that moment, or they risk death and die at a later moment.
What I like so much about that, it's a super posse. Nobody's going to beat that super.
Right.
You know, George Roy Hill, the director, has them coming every other scene. The Great Posse is there.
Who are those guys?
Yeah, that was
That's-
the word. I love that line.
And what's so great about that is that you're right. It's a super posse that I think for the, you know, the length of the movie remains faceless. You don't ever really see them.
That's right. They're
They
always
piece
coming.
it together who it is. But it becomes that posse as a group becomes a character.
Oh, exactly.
And it becomes this force, an existential force, right? There's no escaping the end of this.
And George Roy Hill comments that students who watch the film have frequently said to him that it was a metaphor for the government coming after all of us little people. And when you think of the anti-war demonstrations back in the 60s, it would be appropriate. I doubt if he cared that much for the allegorical implications.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. Yeah, that's interesting. I never thought of it that way. I saw it more as the personification of time and advancement.
Oh, I agree.
And
yeah.
These
the changing
guys,
times.
These guys represented a sort of lifestyle that was passing, right? Represented by the theme of horse to bicycle. You know,
yes.
The bicycle and the bicycle wheel turning in the water, you know, is like a clock.
Wonderful.
Yeah, they just their time is up.
And one of the great scenes for me is when all the horses come off the train. And
That's beautiful.
a powerful evocation of the West as we thought of it being. Now, the interesting thing is that George Roy Hill had a ramp in the back of the train on the other side, so that the horsemen came up and then jumped out of the train because there wasn't enough room.
Yeah, to generate
Isn't
that
it
force.
great?
But it is a beautiful moment. I'm so glad you brought that up because it is a poetic moment.
Oh,
that's what I miss about a lot of today's films is will we be talking about a lot of these films, 30, 40, 50 years hence? I don't think so.
think we'll be talking about Black Panther. I think
You do?
I think we'll be talking about the Avengers.
Name one moment in
theme.
Black Panther that you'll be talking about the way you just talked about them jumping off the cliff.
There isn't any moment.
Right.
I need
Okay.
no because I need the
Okay,
years.
anyway, go ahead.
Anyway,
No, I'm not saying Black Panther wasn't enjoyable.
No,
but
you're
there's
saying what? I mean, come on, we've mentioned the sociological importance of Black Panther alone. Like, guess who's coming to dinner? We're going to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll
perhaps.
talk about that moment in our culture. We won't talk about any moments from the film.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I'd have to look at it again. Right?
Okay, so I win
I
that
know
one.
you win
All
that
right.
one. Yeah. Anyway, Paul Newman did say it was the most fun he'd ever had making a movie.
Oh, I bet.
He and Redford just drank Mexican beer the whole time.
Wow.
But isn't that wonderful, the chemistry you were talking about?
Yeah.
And interesting that all of the crew got Montezuma's revenge, but Redford, Newman, and Ross, who refused to drink the water. And
Oh, wow.
They just drank beer the whole time.
They just drank beer the whole time.
So, I don't know.
That would explain the chemistry.
I think it would. Although she, again, talking about The Graduate, she went on to be Miss Robinson. Catherine Ross went on to be Miss Robinson, or what?
She was.
She was
coming off of The Graduate. That's probably why Dustin Hoffman was being considered.
Could be.
Because Catherine Ross and,
Yes.
and him had made The Graduate
Yeah,
together.
yeah.
She is great in the movie as Sundance's love interest, but there's this beautiful sort of friendship between all three of them.
Oh, I think that there's a suggestion that Newman's Butch
Uh-huh.
and she were together.
Yeah.
But this brings up a side note, knowing how and it's what esteem you hold Paul Newman.
Mm-hmm.
He broke up with Joanne Woodward for a while to have a romance with a journalist named Nancy Bacon.
Yeah, I heard about this. I read about this, and this is interesting. I don't know if he broke up with her. He was having an
Well, they
affair.
split for a while.
Yeah, she found out about it,
Right.
and that he was, having this dalliance with this woman, and I believe, I can't remember if I read this right, the woman eventually just got fed up with Paul Newman because he was always so drunk. He was ineffective.
Whoa,
In bed.
that's
And
interesting.
She told him
Wow.
as much. She said, "What is the purpose of this? You're just
Whoa.
you're just a drunken fool." And I think that was part of the reason Joanne Woodward was able to get over it, is that not much really happened between
Oh,
them.
wonderful. Well, that is
That's
so
what I
great.
think. That's what I read. Yeah.
Well, look at, again, back to the 60s. First of all, there wasn't anything before or after like this
No.
film, like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid.
No, of course they reteamed for The Sting. in
They did. And
1972.
this one, Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, had 4 Oscars.
Yeah.
And I think the Sting won, probably for Best Picture.
Yeah, a couple. Yeah, right. I'm sure that.
So they were in a couple of great films together, and that ironic dialogue, that feel for those characters, I think is unique, and will never again. Even though we'll try with numerous buddy films after that, and I'd like to point out in the '60s, because you frequently mentioned this to me, and you were so right about the golden years of film. The 60s and 70s.
Begins right there, yeah.
And I'll remind you on the 60s of the films that compete with this for us talking about it. Psycho, Lawrence of Arabia, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, The Graduate, Dr. Strangelove, and 2001.
Oh, those all came out in the 60s, yeah. I mean, if nothing else came out, look what,
Yes.
came out of there. That last thing.
All right.
It's great.
All right, Hi-O Silver.
Wrong reference, but